The level of insecurity in Nigeria now is very high, and in some parts of the country, citizens sleep with their eyes open for fear of being attacked by men of the underworld.
Now, almost on a daily basis, rampaging AK-47 wielding herdsmen unleash terror on farming communities, destroying everything in their path. Now, the herdsmen have repeatedly attacked Benue, Plateau, and Taraba states, but have now extended their reign of terror to Kogi State. Now, this has fueled calls for state policing by some Nigerians, and they argue that state governors, as chief security officers of their states, should be able to control security operatives in their domain.
Now, they say this will result in quick response to emergency situations and crime, and ultimately curb criminality and reduce insecurity. And now with us in the studio is a security expert, Nnamdi Okeke, joining us. And good morning. It's good to have you join us. Yes. And from our Abuja studios, a former director of the State Security Service and security consultant, Mike Ejiofor. Good morning, Mike. It's good to have you join us as well.
My pleasure.
All right. Let me start with you, Nnamdi. When it comes to the issue of security and the police, Nigerians have been calling for state policing, state policing, state policing. But a lot of others still feel very insecure, saying that governors are obviously going to abuse the state police when they have it and all of that. Now, if you watch what's going on in some parts of the country, certainly the fears are confirmed in some regard. But what do you see? Let me start from there.
There is a strong relationship between community policing and even state policing. My idea is state policing is hinged on effective community policing. So if you show me a state that has effectively policed its community, then it can actually run on state policing. So the first start is community policing. We need to get community policing right before we even start talking about state policing, because again, the structures that should run state policing are not even in place in most states. And we have to evolve into this. It's not just crying out and having it done. We have to evolve into this. And that's my basic outlook on the combination, yes.
All right, let me take it to Mike Ejiofor, former director of State Security Services, former director of SSS. Now, this really, our focus this morning is, herdsmen killings and community policing. A lot of Nigerians, including the vice president, in 2016 or thereabout, actually said that there is a need for state police or something like that, maybe community policing, as a way of checking the security challenges that Nigeria is facing. What really are the guarantees? And come to think of it, why has it not even been put into effect, since government recognizes the place of community policing?
Well, like the last speaker said, there are two differences, the community police and state police. For the state police, you need a law to back it, because for now, we have the Nigeria Police Force, which is statutorily charged with maintenance of internal security. But for the community policing, you need the cooperation of members of the community, members of the public, to volunteer information and give to the police to assist in maintaining law and order. The issue or the argument that it will be abused is neither here nor there. I have always advocated for state police because that is the only way to go. And I'm happy too that at your intro, you made reference to the speech delivered by the Vice President at the plenary of the Senate Organized Security Summit. He agreed entirely the need for state police. And most of our reports in 2014 has also talked about state police. So the earlier we do that, the better for us. And furthermore, if you look at virtually all the states, in Lagos, you have the Rapid Response Squad. In Imo, you have their own vigilante. You have Hisba. Virtually all the states have their own state police by whatever name. So what is left is for the National Assembly to look at the way of passing this into law, I'm sure state governments will buy into it. The truth remains that as it is now, the center, taking this responsibility directly from the center, is very ineffective in maintaining law and order in the country.
All right. Now, let me, Nnamdi, let me come to you on this. When it comes to the relationship between the police and the people, I'm talking about community policing now, a lot of Nigerians still feel not comfortable to divulge or to give information to the police. The trust is always not there. Is the fault from the police, or the fault is from the people?
Looking at the history of the police in Nigeria, they've lost legitimacy. The people actually see them as an oppressive group. Now, that's some of the problems that will be solved by community policing. It's a process, it's a gradual approach where you actually gain some level of collaboration, engagement, to be able to educate. In fact, the whole idea of community policing is to get to the point where people get involved in policing their community. Of course, but if it's within even the Herdsmen context, it has evolved. As he said, it should have been earlier practiced in 2016 when we had this group become the first deadliest terrorist group in the world. So, but for now, I believe very strongly that one of the problems we are facing, which is the police legitimacy, is going to be solved by community policing.
How is that going to happen? Because if
first,
people already have this negative perception about the police, whether you bring community policing or family policing, how is that really going to
How it works is
yes.
it's a process. You start, it's already in place in several places. You have the collaborative effort of the police and civilians policing their areas together. You know that I can actually work with this man. You even have people now becoming spy police members. It's all an effort towards community policing. So gradually, they get the legitimacy that we need to work with these guys to help us solve this issue. So it's going to take some time, but this is the way forward, actually.
Yeah, but if we leave it to that, it seems like it's just discretionary. It is not a structure. It is just the issue of, okay, let us work with these people, and another police officers are deployed and they feel, okay, we have to change these people and bring in new people and all of that. So it's just left there to discretion.
When properly structured, the police programs or designs is supposed to develop more ideas on creating a buy-in from the civil populace. I think that's where we really need to focus some attention to. And again, you know, in the past where you have the police try to do this, we end up going at the loose ends. We find out that the person we're collaborating with is not actually collaborating with us. So these are things we may need to correct, but gradually it's going to take place, yes.
All right, let's bring in Mike Ejiofor. How do you think then that we can actually bring about this confidence and change the narrative about the public perception towards the police? I mean, Nnamdi here is saying that with community policing, you will solve that problem. And I'm wondering how. How exactly, what are the strategies that you need to put in place to engender, bring about confidence in police?
Well, the police is Nigeria police. So there is no way the Nigeria police can succeed without Nigerians. Every segment of the society, every institution has its own shortcomings. Nigeria police is not an exception. So what I would advise that members of the public should cooperate with the police, expose the corrupt police officers or people who fall short of their duties. That's the only way we can continue to build confidence. But if we continue with this blame game that the police is bad, we are not going to import people from outside Nigeria to come and operate the police for us. Yeah, but the average
Nigerian will tell you, if I offer that information, that much needed information to the police, the tendency is I might be at risk and there will be a huge cover-up, and at the end of the day, nothing happens.
No. You see, that's an old story.
Okay.
For now, you have the social media, police have dedicated lines. You don't need to be there in person. Even the issue of whistleblowing, you see the way it's operating. Even though in some areas, the operators default in terms of payment. But you can come out without being visible to give information through dedicated lines or through the social media. So the issue of saying that you'll be victimized when the police come out, I think those areas are gone. Or you go to the top echelon of the police, like the commissioners of police, if you have very sensitive information to give, or to the divisional police officers at the local government level. So I think we need to continue to build confidence and encourage our police.
All right, let me stay with you, Mike. We know that abroad, in developed countries, when neighbors discover or see anything, they feel uncomfortable in their neighborhood, they pick up the phone and they call the police directly to tell them what they noticed. Sometimes the police might arrive and discover it wasn't exactly what happened, but at least there was the presence of police. Now, when it comes to that culture, what would it take to have Nigerians be vigilant enough to notice something around a neighborhood
and say something?
Yeah, that's a very vital question. The reason is that we are not conscious or aware of our environment. Nigerians must be security conscious. They must know people living there. I'll give you an example. You know, there are some people who live in highbrow areas like Maitama in Abuja or Asokoro. Your next door neighbor, you don't know him. So how would you assist in terms of any challenges or security? So we need to synergize. We need to come together and assist the police. First of all, we must form neighborhood watch so that if there's anybody coming into a place, is a new person, we'll be able to establish his means of livelihood. What does he do? There are areas people stay at night. They go out. Throughout the day, they're in the houses. It doesn't concern anybody. You should be concerned when you see such people that they go out only at night and stay in their houses during the day.
Now, only recently, to you, Nnamdi, Amnesty International came out with a report saying that Nigerian security operatives or forces did not act on the intelligence that was given to them. Don't forget the Taraba State Governor also raised the alarm that there was a reported possibility of terror attacks in his domain, and it happened in less than 48 hours. So it's one thing for citizens to give or provide that information. It's another thing for the security forces to act on it.
Based on their capacity?
Yeah, well.
The truth is, sometimes it's easy to theorize security attacks. They're a bit complex. Let's look at something that happened years back. Abdul Mutalab's parents went to report that my son is extreme. They reported to all the embassies. He was on a no-fly list in the UK. The CIA was aware, the defense was aware. But he still slipped by, got into a plane, and was ready to blow it up. So was it because the US failed to act on reports? Some of the things are a bit more complex than this. If you go into the intricacies, you'll be able to understand,
Okay.
So, but I doubt if the current military, which have reduced the attacks by 80% since 2016, especially the Boko Haram attack, will allow another set of kids to slip through. I doubt a great deal, honestly, yes.
In spite of the fact that they were given a heads up that
I doubt a
there
great
were
deal.
such threats.
I doubt a great deal, yes.
All right, Mike, let me come to you on this. When it comes to community policing, we have been talking about this for years now. Who should really champion this, really? Is it the police as an institution, or the government that is led by politicians, or is it the community itself?
I think it should be led by the state governments, who are always at the point of saying that they are, by name, chief security officers, but they don't have direct control of the security architecture. So I think the state government should drive it with civil society and the National Assembly to amend the laws to enable people, to enable states have their own police, the state police. Because if you look at it critically, like the question you asked before this time, the Zamfara state governor made an allegation that he called the commissioner of police and informed them of an impending attack. The Benue State governor made the same allegation. Taraba State governor made the same allegation. So if you begin to have this trend, there's bound to be truth on it. I'm not saying it's completely true, but you see, the tendency for one to believe, when 3 governors have raised the issue, have made such allegations, then you begin to believe such stories, because a lie once told becomes a truth, or told many times. So if the state governments are serious, they should lead in this agitation for creation of state police. But the argument, like people have always said, is that it will be abused. Then, if it is only the political aspect that I believe will be abused, using it against their political opponents, and you have avenues to address such issues if your rights are abused, or when you are out of office. We will not say because it will be abused and we will refuse to do the right thing. As the police is constituted now at the center, I'm happy the Vice President admitted to that fact. It's going to be difficult to police Nigeria effectively.
Still staying with you, Mike Ejiofor, is it a matter of nomenclature, really? Like they say, a rose by any other name will still smell like a rose. The Peace Corps bill that was presented to the president for assent was rejected from, by the president. Peace Corps, community police, neighborhood watch, and all the rest of them. Does it really matter what they are called, or they'll really be functioning as, providing security to the local communities, the states, and what have you? What is wrong with having state police, community police, or whatever?
State police should be established by law.
Yes.
And the controversy trailing the Peace Corps is a different thing. And they are not meant to police, but to complement the efforts of the police. But if you have a state police established, distinct, of course, from the community policing, there are 2 different things. The state police established by law, like most state governments have done, establishing vigilante in the name of police. These things can be formalized. So no matter the duplicity of organizations, you remember the challenges also faced before the establishment of Civil Defense Corps, and so on and so forth. So we have a challenge that this issue must be addressed. The most important thing is that these activities, security challenges in the country, are undermining the authority of government in provision of security to the people. So we must look for a solution. We must look for ways of addressing these issues so that we will have peace. Besides, elections are coming shortly, and campaigns will start. People are going to make campaign issues out of this and make inflammatory statements. They are going to ethnicize all these issues of herdsmen attack, make it religious, make it ethnic, give it ethnic coloration, and that will hit up the polity. So the earlier we do all this is to find how we're going to solve the problem, the better for us.
All right, Nnamdi, let me come to you on this. The point there is the attacks by herdsmen has been something that's very reoccurrent. In fact, it seems like every week you must hear something from one state or the other. Either it's Benue, or it's Taraba, or it's Kogi, or it's Kano, or Zamfara, as the case may be.
And now Kogi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Does it seem obvious that the police is highly overwhelmed by all of this and cannot handle the situation?
That's very rhetorical. Okay, firstly, it's clear that we can't police our states. It's overwhelmingly clear. If you look at the several attacks in states like Benue, you know that it's clear that we can't police our states. It's also clear that we can also meet the expected demand ratio of police protection to 400%. These are established facts. These are not things we want to start arguing. So community policing should have been one of those ways to solve this problem in 2016. Now, in 2018, we are now supposed to be evolving into a new type of community policing that also involves the equipping of civilians with arms. Now, the sad news is we are to set the template for the world. The United States or any part of Europe is not facing herdsmen attack. We are at the forefront of herdsmen attack. So we are supposed to be the template for what should be a way to solve it. So for now, we're supposed to be talking about civilians who can resist herdsmen attack. In places like Benue, where you have a police post, a few local settlements, where you don't even have serious interest of the police, as it were, you need to have. That's why these attacks have been very fruitful. I must say, of all the terrorist groups, herdsmen attack have been the most successful. I've not had them being majorly apprehended. I've not had a counter-attack on them that killed them. They have been very successful because they've not found any form of resistance. Yes, it's a far cry. People are saying, no, don't arm the people. But they are supposed to be the first line of defense in the absence of the police.
No, but
so
the point there is, if you arm people, we have seen in the Niger Delta, where people were armed for different reasons. And when the challenge for the time or the reason why they were armed is past, they metamorphose into something else. There is the concern in the civilian JTF in the northeast, where they are somehow incorporated into the security apparatus, where they may not be directly armed, but they are used by the security agencies. By the time Boko Haram is over, what becomes of those people? So in the same way, you arm civilians, and then by the time normalcy returns, what happens?
Now, the beauty behind it, as I said, we are setting the templates. If properly designed and properly controlled, there are people, if you come to my house to attack me, you don't need to tell me that in the bid to protect myself, I'll use the amount of force required. It could cause the loss of life of the assailant, but guess what? I've protected myself. Nobody says I shouldn't. Okay, so where you have a state that is constantly attacked, and we can't police the state enough, we can't protect the people, we can't do what is right for them to stay alive. These are the options they have. We need to just create designs that keep it controlled. Mind you, in several states already, we have different vigilante groups, and they are armed in one way or the other, and it has served to at least ward off the possible attacks that you will get at night, where before daybreak, 30, 40, 100 people have been killed. So it's something we should think of and consider strongly, or else 2 years from now, while we are discussing how to get people armed, people have been killed, more than 3,000.
All right, and I wonder if Mike Ejiofor agrees with you there on that score, that a certain group of civilians should be armed as a way of checking this herdsmen attacks. I recall Governor Samuel Otom in Benue said that his people should defend themselves. And then, you know, we heard of reports of some state governors actually bringing arms in and arming militants and what have you. Who should any group of civilians be armed in the first place? Who should arm them? And
yeah,
if
criteria?
we arm them, exactly, what criteria?
Well,
yeah.
It's unlawful to go and arm civilians. But as it is now, like
okay, seem to
Right.
have
There's
a freeze
technical
there.
freeze there.
Yes. Governor Tom said that people should arm or defend themselves, not arm themselves. Forgive me. How should they do that?
Oh, you see, the entire framework of community policing is more tripod-based.
Okay.
First, you gain collaboration. Second, you sensitize by educating
Collaboration
people.
from
The populace,
the
yes,
populace,
yes.
okay.
So they have a buy-in in what you're doing. You also educate them. Now, there's an aspect where you, as a group with the police, face all your existing threats. Now, in the bid to face all your existing threats, remember, you are local, you understand the knowledge, you have the intelligence, you have the basic requirements to combat that crime. It won't be wrong, as I said, we are setting these templates, to have people who will be armed, properly controlled to ensure. See, when I hear things like grazing, making available lands, these are for nomadics who are sane and have been coexisting peacefully with
not those who have
different
exchanged
communities.
their sticks for AK-47.
There are people who move around with AK-47s. They need to be resisted. And in most cases, they've been successful because in the locations where they attack, you don't even find policemen. So what's the immediate solution to these attacks?
All right, that's a big question that the government, one way or the other, has to answer. Nnamdi Okeke, thank you so much for coming on the program. And we also thank Mike Ejiofor for joining us from our Abuja studio, even though there was a freeze on him and we couldn't get his voice and later input. But we thank you all for watching.